Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Forbes contributor Leonard Armato. Leonard, thanks for coming on today.
Well, it's always a pleasure to visit with you, Brittany. So, looking forward to our conversation today. I know it's a subject near and dear to your heart.
Of course, as you know, you've been in the sports world for decades now, and you recently wrote a piece for Forbes on gender equality in sports. Can you first walk us through what it's like to be a woman in professional sports, back to when you represented Lisa Leslie during her WNBA career?
Yeah, I've been an advocate for equality in sports for quite some time. And I represented a lot of famous men athletes like Shaquille O'Neal and Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, and many others. But I also had the pleasure of representing Lisa Leslie, arguably the greatest player in the history of the WNBA, for gold medals at the Olympic Games, WNBA MVPs. And it was definitely a challenge representing her because women were just not given the respect they deserve in the sports world back then.
Can you tell us what it's like now? Like, have you seen progress from then until now?
Well, back when I was representing Lisa, it was really frustrating. I'll give you one example. So I went in to negotiate a shoe contract with a very famous shoe company. Let's just say their name, Nike. You probably heard of them. And Nike was obviously the shoe company that everyone aspired to be with. They were the shoe company that was made particularly famous at the time by Michael Jordan. So Lisa's contract was with Nike. And every year they kept offering her less money. And I said to the folks at Nike, why do you keep offering her less money? And what they said was, girls don't care about what other girls wear on the basketball court. They only care what Michael Jordan is wearing on the basketball court. And I said to Ralph Green, he was the head of all Nike basketball at the time, I said, Ralph, can she have a signature shoe? And he said, no signature shoe. We've done research, and really all the girls care about is what Michael Jordan is wearing. So, that made me obviously very disappointed. And that was exactly the way people were treating women back in the day.
Now let's flash forward to now. You're saying that the mindset back then was girls don't care what other girls are wearing on the court. Has that changed at all?
I think it's changing a little bit, finally. And I was always beating the drum. And what I was saying, Brittany, is that if you can't see it, you can't aspire to be it. So Madison Avenue would always have Michael Jordan commercials wearing Nike. You would see all these men, athletes, created beautiful commercials around them and what they were doing. And you wouldn't see the same thing for women. And so if you're not seeing it, all you're seeing is Michael Jordan, then all you're going to do is want to wear what Michael Jordan is wearing. And that's the problem that existed. And today there's been, quite a bit of movement towards gender equality. I mean, people are really looking to show how companies, media, and everyone can get behind women and women's sports. And it really started with other professions. I think sports is probably the last thing to catch up, because other professions are saying, why aren't we seeing women more in positions of power? Why aren't we seeing women in situations where they can be contributors at a high level? They shouldn't be relegated to menial tasks. Now in sports, there's a massive pay gap. I mean, that men, professional athletes, are receiving massive amounts of money, and the women just don't seem to be treated the same way. So that's one of the problems we're trying to remedy now.
Growing up, I know that I've seen Serena Williams really break glass ceilings when it comes to women in sports. And you wrote about the Serena effect. Can you explain?
Yeah, I think, again, if you can't be it, if you can't see it, you can't aspire to be it. So now we're seeing, for the first time, a real female athlete be utilized in advertising and marketing, so young girls can aspire to be like that female athlete. She's probably the first one that's really broken through like that. In the past, the only female athletes that were breaking through were the truly beautiful ones. And they didn't necessarily have to be that good at their sport. They were just beautiful. And that's what our culture basically rewards. So if you think about this, if you look at who has the most followers on Instagram, for example, social platforms, on the men's side, it's athletes, right? I mean, LeBron James, you have the big soccer players, Ronaldo. But on the female side, what do you have? Kim Kardashian, Ariana Grande. So we're really rewarding men who are athletes and powerful and women who are beautiful and part of pop culture. So that has to change a little bit. And to your point, Brittany, I think the Serena effect has changed that a little bit.
Do you think there's room at the table for everyone? I mean, aside from being beautiful, Kim Kardashian, Ariana Grande are very talented. They run their own businesses. So is there room at the table for everyone here?
Yeah, I think there is room at the table. I was just pointing out that these are the kinds of things that our culture has promoted. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, I'm going to be quite fair here. If you ask, what question do people ask if you're wondering about who you should be dating? So if it's a guy, the first question is, what's he do? If it's a woman, the first question is, what does she look like? So we definitely have a different way of positioning men and women. And on the sports side, I think it all comes down to one thing. Women need to be conditioned to watch women's sports. You represent over half the population. So if you were watching women's sports, if you valued women's sports, then all of a sudden what's going to happen is there's going to be more distribution, there's going to be more viewership, and there's going to be more money, because the money comes with the viewership and the reach, and people need to understand that. Until that happens, until people are watching women's sports, you'll never have true gender equality. And here's one thing that's very important. Up until recently, 95% of all sports programming on television was men's sports. 95%. Only 5% was allocated to women's sports, and only 3% of media coverage is devoted to women's sports. So that is a big disparity. So, I had recommended actually early on that we almost do something like we did with Title IX. Remember, Title IX really allowed women, and actually mandated that women be allowed to participate in sports. And the results of that have been tremendous in business, because I think 93% of women executives somehow were the beneficiary of Title IX, because it teaches you how to compete and how to persevere and how to be a good teammate. And women have benefited from Title IX in business. Now, on the sports side, maybe we should mandate that more women's sports gets distributed on television. That would be an interesting way to balance the way we actually see sports and value sports from a gender perspective.
To your point, you wrote that, quote, the WNBA has had a breakout year in the TV ratings department. What do you think has contributed to the WNBA success?
I think it's this whole movement towards gender equality. I mean, in order to really create more viewership, more reach, more value for a property, there has to be viewership. And the viewership comes from making it more aspirational to people. So the WNBA has a great new leader in Kathy Engelbert. She's done a great job of bringing in corporate support, and the companies have activated around the WNBA, which gives it more marketing muscle, gives it more reason for people to view it. And I think this momentum around added viewership, added corporate support, added social media support. I think ESPN, one of the media partners, actually doubled, tripled, quadrupled their social presence around WNBA last year. And that really helped. So I think for the first time in the past 20 years, I'm seeing a real momentum shift towards women's sports. Look at the NWSL, the Women's Soccer League. All of a sudden, new ownership is coming, new investment is coming, a new media deal with CBS is coming. So broader distribution, more corporate support. Adam Silver loves to say this: I don't care as much about the money that a brand pays me to support the NBA as much as them converting their marketing dollars to make our sport aspirational. That's what has to happen more and more and more for women's sports. And I think we're on the right path finally.
This is all really good progress. It's promising results. But how do we keep up this momentum?
I think that we've got to have broader distribution, because the more women's sports you see, the more you'll be conditioned to value it. Keep that in mind. Second, Madison Avenue, corporate America has to activate around women's sports. If they activate around it, it becomes more aspirational. If young girls can see other women in positions where they're being marketed through their sports activities, they're going to want to be that athlete. They're going to want to watch that athlete. That's a big deal.
Great. Leonard Armato, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brittany.